Yeah, hello everyone, Nervin Rex here, and welcome back to another video. So yeah, sorry if I haven't posted anything in the past few days. It's because I've been very busy. Cause because I'm now an intern at a hospital in the accounting office of a hospital in here in the city I live in. So yeah, it's part of my school's work immersion program. We are to be interns at any company we'd like to for at least for 2 weeks, and stuff like that for when we eventually graduate and enter the workforce. So yeah. Anyway, so the video I'm going to be watching is by Found and Explained, called "Is China's New Fighter Jet Invisible?" The J-35. Now, when I saw the news report for this new fighter jet, I just knew I had to react to a video on it, because yeah, considering the global events happening now, as of now, not to mention how Chinese Coast Guard and naval vessels keep hammering us here in the Philippines. So yeah. Anyway, I can't wait to check it out. I already know about their J-20 5th gen fighter, and I've already seen a video on it, so that's why I'm not going to react to the J-35.
This video is brought to you by Squarespace and their new design intelligence. The F-35 is the latest Chinese 5th gen fighter. Wait, hold on, that's not right. That's not the F-35 at all. Let me restart.
I almost mistook it for the F-35 until I saw the engines, because I know that the F-35 is single-engined.
A new 5th gen carrier-based fighter has entered the market under the designation J-35, and it's the future of the Chinese Navy. Made to operate from the new Type 0003 carriers as a multi-role fighter, the J-35 wants to dominate the South China Sea and further increase the threat against American fleets in the region. So today, let's look into the development and the history of the Chinese answer to the F-35 and answer the lingering question. Is it just a ripoff, or is it any good? Hey gang, we're on a mission to get to 1 million subscribers, so if you haven't already, become a sub and join the
If you only knew about the concept of the F-35 and you didn't know, and you weren't familiar with its appearance and characteristics, you'd probably mistake the J-35 as the F-35.
Found and Explained Army. China entered the 5th gen aircraft game over a decade ago with an aircraft called the J-20. In the beginning, it was ridiculed in the media by both the West and Russia. But then the J-20 prototype had its first flight in 2011. And just a year later, another plane followed under the designation FC-31. Unlike the J-20, which was sort of a unique design, combining the characteristics of the F-22 and European Delta Wing Canard configurations, the FC-31 was much less innovative and more of a copycat in its design, resembling a love child of the F-22 and the F-35. The media didn't give too much space to this jet, as it was just a prototype and it soon went into hiding, apparently losing the JXX program competition to Chengdu and their J-20. But this
pretty sick aircraft in terms of appearance. Now, is the J-20 any good when compared to the F-22 or the F-35? Maybe. I don't think it's better than it's as good as the F-35. Maybe it's on par with the F-22, but again, we don't know. As the J-20 has never entered into combat, so not to mention the lack of data on the J-20's battle stats. I mean, not battle stats, I mean like tech stats and whatnot. So it may not be as good, or as capable as the F-22 or F-35, but it's certainly not a bad plane.
It was not the whole truth. Let's grab some tinfoil and get down to it.
I will not forgive you. Skip this video. My life is more important than the next video. Please don't hesitate. You can give.
Please forget you saw that.
You see, China has two major aircraft development companies, Chengdu and Shenyang. Both were
Russia has Mikoyan or MiG and Sukhoi or Su. Then US has Lockheed and Boeing.
competing starting from the 90s onwards for a job to build a new Chinese 5th gen fighter under the JXX program. Historically speaking, Chengdu was responsible for more original designs in the People's Liberation Army Air Force, and Shenyang did licensing of friendly nations jets, and copycat designs of, let's say, less friendly nations. So in recent years, they're basically the ones behind the J-11 family, basically a license of the Su-27, and their descendants, the J-15 and 16.
Looking 4th gen aircraft. I tell you, and I don't know much about the battle history or statistics of both Western or Russian Russian fighters. However, if you were to sell me a like F-16 or a Su-27, and you ask me which one I liked better in terms of appearance, you can't deny that the Su-27 line, that the Sukhoi Su-27 line of planes is far cooler than the F-16 and whatnot.
While Chengdu developed the J-10 and J-20, which are both original designs. Well, kind of. This information will be important throughout the story, so let me lay it all out. In 2008, Chinese hackers breached into the Joint Strike Fighter program in America and stole thousands of documents regarding the development of the F-35 stealth fighter. Darn it. A lot of these were incorporated into future aircraft like the AOTS style integrated targeting system, the canopy and front section, and the DSI intakes, but more on that later. Chengdu with the J-20 obviously won the contract and went into serial production, but the FC-31 wasn't dead, and recently it got a big upgrade. The Chinese, through various means, and I really do mean various, have managed to create a new fighter jet that might just match the stealth capabilities of the various Western powers. Now, I'm going to get into just that point in a moment, but there is a lesson here, that you shouldn't be afraid of new technology, and new ways of approaching the same problem can come up with radically new solutions. And I've applied that exact idea with my merch store, foundandexplained.shop, now powered by the Naval. Last year, the first photos of a completely new aircraft, named the J-35, leaked from China. Leaked meaning the Chinese probably purposely showed them because at this point, they wanted the US to know what they were developing. And it's the biggest slap in the face. The new J-35 is significantly different from the original FC-31 design and significantly similar to the F-35. The design similarities were uncanny, starting with the whole front section that was ripped straight off the F-35. But they didn't stop there. They also took the vertical stabilizers as well as the enlarged wing.
Now, as many of us would like to say, "Oh no, it's just a made in China copycat." As much as we'd like to say that, in terms of design and appearance, there's only so much you can do with a limited budget. While also making the plane light and aerodynamic, as well as light aerodynamic and as strong enough and stable enough for the heat of war and battle. So, to put this in a civilian perspective, let's say you were to take an SUV from Ford and let's say Nissan or Toyota or Volkswagen or whatever. Now they are from now both, and you were to remove the logos and labels of the cars, and you didn't know anything about the car industry or the companies involved in the industry. Now you might say, "Oh, they're just both SUVs. It doesn't matter what I choose." Now, which is essentially for the most part true. There's only, and if you were to try to design your own SUV, there's only, sure, you can try to change the appearance in terms of how it's shaped and also the color and whatnot and the parts, but there's only so much you can do to modify the design and appearance of the design principles of the SUV while still making it classified as an SUV. So although all these different models from different companies are unique and distinct in their own form or way, they are all still SUVs and have both, and they all still share the very same functionalities and control systems as each other, while being slightly different. So as much as we'd like to say that this is a copycat, it's not. In terms of design, we can't really blame the Chinese for producing something that looks very similar to the US. So yeah.
Design and horror.
Or to put it into even more perspective, take all these phone companies like Apple, Samsung, Xiaomi, Oppo, Vivo, etc. They all have their unique and unique characteristics that make them distinct. However, in terms of the appearance, they all share the same design principles. That makes a smartphone. So yeah, you can't really change the design principles of a smartphone. You could change its appearance and size, but you can't really change a smartphone's characteristics. You get me? Alright, let's continue.
Horizontal stabilizers from the Navy F-35C. The the J-35 also has IRST and other targeting equipment integrated on the same spot as the F-35, and in the same...
Yeah, but that's pretty standard for other aircraft as well, including helicopters, so you can't really say it's a copycat design in terms of that.
Indium oxide covered housing. The new jet also has new engines. Unlike the first prototype, powered by a variant of the Russian RD-33 engines from the MiG-29, the J-35 has indigenous WS-13 engines with serrated nozzles to improve the stealth capability. Plus, there are no visible outer weapon mounting spots like on the Korean KF-21, so we can assume that all the weapons are stored internally, making this truly a 5th-gen aircraft with stealth in mind. And there are also some other interesting details to note as well. It features a one-piece canopy open frontally on a latch just like the F-35, and the pilot seat is tilted backwards to improve high-G maneuverability for the pilot. The wings are collapsible, further cementing the role of a naval aircraft, and this is a good foundation for the rest of the story, where this aircraft will be used. The Chinese lately are very keen to build a strong navy, knowing that in case of a conflict, if the US does close their access to the Pacific Ocean, their economy is in big trouble, and the Chinese Navy is the only one capable of preventing this event, spearheaded by their new aircraft carriers. From 0 to 3 carriers in just over a decade, they have surpassed even the Soviet Union. Damn, that's impressive. And this is important for our J-35s as well. The growing threat of war over Taiwan and the Chinese influence in the region has made tensions between them and the US higher than ever before.
China
is not just a second-hand.
Alright guys, so yeah, sorry about that. My mom needed to grab something, anyway, let's continue.
Army anymore using ex-Soviet weapons. This threat is real, and the deployment of US forces in the region and development of this new technology is proof of this. The Chinese have already made their own Navy fighter, the J-15, a copy of the Soviet Su-33 with improved electronics, which would be used on its Type 001 and 002 carriers that have ski jumps, just like the Soviet Kuznetsov carriers, which they have based their development on. But this new carrier, the 003, is technologically much superior and will be fitted with an electromagnetic catapult, just like the Gerald Ford class carriers in the US Navy. Again, China moving up from Soviet technology. China wants to equip its new carrier with stealth multi-role fighters, and this is exactly the role that the J-35 is aiming to fulfill. Speaking of this role, the J-35 will be supplementing the J-20 fleet as well, because the J-20, as we mentioned in our video dedicated to this jet, is primarily a large interceptor and an air dominance fighter like the Raptor. And the J-35, on the other hand, looks more towards the role of a multi-role fighter with a specialization in SEAD, air-to-ground, or naval operations. So it's time for the big question. How would the J-35 actually size up against the F-35 in combat? What is its real capability?
I want to give him something special.
I prefer dark chocolate.
In terms of electronics and aircraft weaponry, the Chinese have done a lot in the last decade. We've got to give credit where credit is due. All of the latest aircraft are equipped with AESA radars, including the J-20 of course, and the J-35 won't be an exception. It's rumored that KLJ-7A is stated as a new radar, which is very interesting because just like the Russian...
I don't know anything about radar, aircraft radars, especially on military aircraft or radars in general, so I can't really say whether or not if I think this better than the F-35 or F-22.
N036 in the Su-57, this radar has a two-side mounted antennas, giving the plane much better coverage than the standard frontal 120 degrees. Its projected range is around 200 kilometers, which is less than the AN/APG-83 on the F-35, but everything else, like the SAR resolution and LPI capability, is just pure speculation because we just don't have the information available. Come on, America, hack their database so we can add it to a video. But air-to-air capability of this fighter is quite interesting. China has developed a new medium to long-range missile like the PL-12 and PL-15, and while the PL-12s are outmatched by the latest AMRAAM variants, the PL-15s are actually superior in range to AMRAAMs. This is one of the reasons why the US Air Force is currently developing the new AIM-260 JATM that will be able to outperform the new Chinese missiles. The People's Liberation Army Air Force has a huge variety of laser and satellite guided ordnance today, and as we mentioned, the J-35 has integrated EOTS, giving it the capability to have a completely stealthed out multi-role layout. The stealth performance of this aircraft is also just a big question mark because we can't say anything with any amount of certainty, but it does feature stealth coatings, serrated nozzles and hatches, as well as an S-shaped air duct, so it's definitely in the range of low observable. Chinese engineers have also been stating that the J-35 is designed in a way to optimize low observability even in the L and KU bands, which is one of the issues that the F-35 has. Wouldn't it be funny if the Chinese got around this problem? However, the actual game changer for this new jet could be the brand new PL-21 missiles with that 300-kilometer range, which the J-35 should apparently carry just like the J-20. But again, this is all speculation for now. Whatever the case, one thing is for certain, this jet is still just a prototype. And we have, on the other hand, over 1,000 F-35s built so far. So, to put it simply, it's no match for the F-35 in reality. At least for now. The Chinese are dead serious about their 5th gen program, and the J-20 is seeing massive productions with 210 in service and the production capability of 100 to 120 airframes per year, which would bring the number to over 1,000 by 2030. We know that they obviously can mass produce 5th gen aircraft, and even if it's inferior to its Western counterparts, this is a big red alarm because countering a threat.
One thing that a lot of people often forget in terms of technology in the military hardware and equipment is their cost. Because to put it in perspective, let's take Nazi Germany for example. They had one of the best and technologically advanced military tech, from the Tiger tanks to the first assault rifle and the first jet fighters. However, there was a huge problem with these equipment. No, it's not that they were flawed. It's their cost. Nazi Germany did not have the resources nor the funding to be able to mass produce them on the scale as the Soviet Union or the West. And although Soviet and Western tanks and equipment were far less advanced or higher quality than the Tiger tanks and whatnot, they were able to complement that with the production value. With the production value and whatnot. So yeah, in the words of Joseph Stalin, quantity is a quality of its own. So yeah, and since you know the Philippines is a third world country, in terms of cost, as fancy as the F-35 and the F-22 would be, I rather buy my 5th gen fighters from either Russia or China, because although that may jeopardize our relations with the US, in terms of cost, I'd rather pick Russia or China, because for the most part, we're already in debt, and I know that the US is over $37 trillion in debt. And due to the war in Ukraine and the sanctions that we've imposed on Russia, inflation has just been through the roof, and the currency value of the US dollar in the Philippines, as I've said before in previous videos, has risen. So yeah, not only am I in favor of buying our equipment from China and Russia, as it's cheaper and reliable, but I also believe that the Philippines should engage in de-dollarization of our economy, because like I said, the US is over $37 trillion in debt, and it doesn't take a genius to know that solely relying on the US dollar, and whilst the US continues to increase its national debt, is not beneficial in the long run. So, not to mention China and not to mention India, who has friendly relations with the US and is a prominent BRICS member, not to mention a huge ally with Russia, who is the so-called arch nemesis of the US, has been able to increase the value of the rupee due to de-dollarization. So yeah, I'm not in favor of cutting ties with the US entirely, as many of my family live and work there. But I am in support of de-dollarization, if not joining BRICS.
This big wouldn't be easy. The Chinese can just outproduce us. So what do you think? Is the J-35 going to stay just a prototype and another made in China joke? Or is it possible a serious F-35 competitor is now on the battlefield? Let me know down in the comments, and thanks so much for watching, and I'll meet you soon in the next Found and Explained episode.
I believe now. Sure, come on. I don't care. Now, I don't necessarily believe it's better than the F-35. Maybe it's on par with it, but like we keep saying, we don't have that much data, and both the J-35 and the J-20 have never actually been in combat yet, so we don't know its capabilities. Not to mention, we don't know the not to mention, there's also the pilot experience and expertise as well to consider. So yeah, but yes, like Found and Explained said, it may not be on par with the F-35, but like I said earlier, quality has quantity of its own, and if the US can't mass produce these fighter jets on a mass level, then it's going to be a huge problem, because I know that that one single F-35, or was it F-22, costs around costs over $70 million, compared to Russia's and China's fighter jets that are less than that. So yeah, it may not be as good as the F-35, but I'd rather have my products be cheap, not only be cheap, but also reliable and durable. I may hate communism, but the design principles in their products are absolutely king in terms of economy and production. So yeah. But either way, that's just my point of view. Comment down below what you think of China's new jet fighter. Do you think it's going to be on par with, going to be a threat, or is it just going to be like many dumb people would say, a joke? Alright, that's all I have to say for tonight. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!